I finally got around to testing the Wodanaz spears against sword followers, because I don't remember if I've done that before. I think I have, but I haven't made a video of it, so Obelix is helping me set up a test here. Now, obviously, one of the things that makes the Wodanaz spears dangerous is that they have Ariavistas backing them up with fast charge and pride, and I'm using fast charge on them here now, and fast charge is going to boost their charge bonus up to a massive 49, which means that they should run straight through these sword followers. Let's see here. And indeed, the sword followers just cannot hang with fast charge Wodanaz. And in this case, I'm not even using my shield screen, and the sword followers are not using their shield wall. So this is just 2 units going head on and using fast charge. So using fast charge, they defeat the sword followers, but keep in mind that the Wodanaz spears are significantly more expensive than sword followers. It's just that using fast charge means that they win quite decisively against the sword followers. Now, another thing to take note of is that although the Wodanaz have lower armor than a lot of comparable spear units, they do have a very nice missile block chance of 60%, and that actually helps them in infantry fights, because they are able to avoid quite a lot of the substantial precursor damage that happens on the charge. So the sword followers, although they have more armor, they do have a smaller chance of blocking incoming enemy missiles on the charge. And we'll see how much of a difference that makes here on the charge. How much damage, how many casualties are inflicted by the precursors. So no fast charge this time, just going head on. The precursors hit, and no casualties, but hit point damage was done. So, even on the charge, just about even on the charge. 7 kills, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10, 14, 17. So the Wodanaz here do better than the sword followers do. 32, 19. Overall, the Wodanaz do better on the charge. They have a much higher melee defense. They have a fairly high melee attack. The charge bonuses are very similar. The Wodanaz have higher armor penetration than the sword followers do. So not using any abilities would make both units more durable in combat. But the Wodanaz have more health. They have more morale. But still, the sword followers start winning slightly when no abilities are used, and losing slightly over here when no abilities are used. So, like I keep saying, when 2 units are reasonably evenly matched, you'll see them win sometimes and lose sometimes, and that's just the way it goes. It has to be that way, because of how combat is calculated in the game. So, let's see, here we have 56 sword followers remaining, 42 Wodanaz remaining. So the sword followers did slightly better here against the Wodanaz. And in head-on infantry combat, the sword followers are more dedicated infantry killers, whereas the Wodanaz offer some increased cavalry killing potential. And the sword followers are cheaper than the Wodanaz spears, but the Wodanaz are nice for being a spear unit. It's just that it's a bit, you can't rely on the Wodanaz to do as well against infantry as the sword followers usually do. So they need to be used more as a supporting unit, and in that respect they can be very nice. But then you are using a quite substantial portion of your army to defeat a cheaper portion of the enemy army, and that can work. That can work if you do it properly. So Wodanaz losing slightly here on the charge against the sword followers, and when we fast forward, we'll see the Wodanaz getting defeated by the sword followers. So if you're charging into sword followers on the battlefield with Wodanaz, and no prior damage has been taken on either unit, there are no supporting units, then sometimes your Wodanaz are going to win, sometimes they're going to lose. It depends. it's not 100% certain that either side is going to win. So ideally both players want to tip the balance in their own favor by having supporting units. But something worth noting is that if these Wodanaz end up fighting infantry, they won't be free for fighting cavalry. And that can be quite significant. So in this case we're going to be using their both shield screen and shield wall. Shield screen, of course, increasing the armor and the melee defense up to crazy levels for the Wodanaz. And the sword followers losing heavily now. The shield screen is a more powerful defensive ability than the shield wall. And in this case, when using abilities at the same time, it really is no contest. The Wodanaz have 53 men remaining and 69 men remaining. So the way to use Wodanaz would be to charge them in and activate shield screen as soon as possible. But that it needs to be said, if these Wodanaz activate shield screen and the sword followers do not activate shield screen, what can end up happening is that the sword followers just pull out of the engagement, allowing them to get a second charge. But the same thing can be said for the sword followers. If the followers go into shield wall, then the Wodanaz can pull out and get back in. And in a completely ideal Suebi scenario, you would be able to get 2 fast charges in on one unit, and of course that unit is gone. So let's see, I don't quite remember what we're supposed to test in this case. Perhaps, I think, yeah, it's the effect of precursors, because the Wodanaz are going to be able to block quite a few precursors. So I think we're going to test shield wall, and shield wall, shield screen, and then have precursors turned off in this case. Yeah, precursors are off, so let's see, precursors of both abilities used. Let's see how the Wodanaz do when they're not able to throw their precursors and the sword followers do not take as much prior damage. They are winning slightly here actually. But now they're winning slightly, so it tips back and forth. And the Wodanaz bears start to lose because of their lower armor presumably. But once again, fairly even. But the precursors make up quite a bit of the combat potential of the Wodanaz on the charge. Since they have a great missile block themselves, they will be able to deflect a lot of the incoming missiles. And I don't know exactly how many missiles hit when the precursors are being fired. Let's say that there are 120 missiles being fired, and then a 10% or even a 20% increase in missile block chance. Let's say that, just to make it easy, that 100 projectiles hit. Then a 20% greater missile block chance means that 20 more projectiles don't do any damage, and with 12 armor penetration, that's 120 damage guaranteed that's avoided, and then the 20 base damage varies how much that damage does. But I'm quite convinced that it's significant. That precursor effect is very significant in hoplite on infantry combat and hoplite on melee infantry combat, and in how well spear units do when they fight against melee units. One thing is their armor, their melee defense, their melee attack, their weapon damage, very important values. But the precursors and the ability to shrug off precursor damage is very significant as well. Strength and honor.